All right, Omar, thanks very much for being with us.
Thanks for having me, Rob.
First question for you. Team starts 10-3. Obviously,
Yeah.
we saw what happened down the stretch. How do you kind of evaluate the season overall?
I'd say, we were 10-3 when we felt good about where we were, but the reality is we lost 5 straight games, and that's unacceptable, and it's not good enough. And, so it's disappointing how it ended, and it can't happen again. We have to be self-aware and review everything that we've done and how we do it, and we're in the process of doing that and make sure that doesn't happen again.
I think the argument can be made and has been made that the quarterback position is the most important position in all of sports. Art Rooney said after the year, look, you got good production from Justin Fields, good production from Weston Wilson at times, both of them, that he wants to make a decision at the quarterback position. Where does that stand as we sit here today?
Reality is right now, 3 guys we had last year on the roster are not under contract. So, our preference is to be able to have one or a combination of those guys as part of our roster in 2025. Right now, all options are on the table until that happens, but that's where it's headed.
You've had 2 very well-regarded drafts. How do you feel about the process leading up to the draft with you and your scouts and your team?
I feel really good about our process. We always do review it every year to see, hey, how can we get better? What can we do differently that's going to maybe help us out. But the group that I have a great group of people that I work with. But yeah, overall I feel good about the process. Love being here in Indianapolis. I've been coming here since I think 1997, when I was an intern with the Saints, and I just love it. It's a great process. It's fun, and this is the opportunity for us to acquire players that are going to help us win our championship.
I did want to get back to the combines in a moment, but first, looking back at last year's class, 4 of your 7 guys basically didn't play. But they did have a chance to go through the off-season workouts, to go through some of camp, to sit into meetings, that sort of thing. So how do you evaluate those players?
Yeah, it's almost like a redshirt year for those guys, right? You hate that happened, that these guys were injured, because we felt like all of those guys could have helped us last year. Guys get hurt, and unfortunately, that we had some draft picks, but I'm glad we have them going into 2025.
So fans get to see the sprints and the cone drills and the workouts. Is there a single most valuable part of the combines for you and your staff?
So I'll say what I enjoy the most, or I think it's for me, it's important. It's really the interviews. The opportunity to spend time with these guys on the formal interviews at night when we get those guys, it's so important. We take full advantage of that time, getting to know the player, identifying if he's a stealer, if he's the right type of player for us, and the guy that can help us win. We want guys that are winners and that love football, and winning's important to them. So the interviews for me are a big part of this.
What else are you and your staff trying to accomplish here in Indianapolis?
You mentioned getting to know those guys, but then also, the field work's important. So, we'll see how many guys actually participate out there. But, the field work, it's an opportunity for us to reaffirm what the scouts saw on tape. And we have some meetings scheduled here with the agents for some of our players, and there's business to be done here too. As
you look at the draft, are there strengths and weaknesses of this year's draft, and what would you classify as the strengths and weaknesses? It's
a solid draft. It's been well documented. The running back prospects are pretty good this year. There's a ton of guys and that we would feel good about, and I think the D-line has a good core group. The edge rushers, there's a good group core of edge rushers out there. I think there's some playmakers out there, guys that could, you can get in the early round, not only in the early rounds, but in the later rounds. I'm really excited about it, and the process continues, and there's still a lot of time between now and April, so we'll see.
You have quite a bit of cap space available, and you've been aggressive in free agency. Since you've been the general manager, you've gotten starters, and you've spent good money in free agency, and you've been aggressive. Do you expect that to continue this year?
I'd say we will be consistent with the way things have gone the last couple of years.
So I think this is a fascinating question about team building, right? So you have the draft, but you also have free agency. So does one inform the other? I mean, can you look at free agency and say, well, we think player position X, running back, is great, so maybe we don't pursue that as much in free agency?
Absolutely. You kind of evaluate that, but the reality is sometimes a player might, at a position of need, might still be sitting there in free agency that might make sense for you, or something might come your way that maybe you didn't think was going to come your way at the beginning. There's a lot of moving parts with this, and but you look at it all. One obviously affects the other, but you have to balance how that works.
Yeah, you're trying to maximize like your roster, right?
Absolutely,
By these
absolutely.
two processes.
Yeah, we're always trying to add good players at every position group, so you always try to get better.
So for all the fans out there, what happens next after these combines wrap up? What is sort of the next phase for you and your staff?
Sure, we head back, to Pittsburgh after this weekend. We go back and kind of reassess some things that we saw here, and then the guys just really start hitting the pro days. That's the next phase of this. Coach and I will attend several pro days. We're trying to figure out where we need to go, what makes the most sense. But scouts will all be out there. Some of the assistant coaches, we might be strategic as to where we send them. And then, the guys come back in April. We have our next phase of draft meetings, and then, the draft will be here before we know it.
Yeah, can't wait. Omar, thanks very much for your time.
Thanks,
really
Rob.
appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on. It was a pleasure.